The stars had always been beautiful until they brought death. Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching her fleet die. Around her, the last ships of humanity burned in the cold darkness of space. The enemy vessels moved, like silver ghosts, their weapons cutting through human armor as if it were paper. "Admiral, the Colorado is gone," reported Lieutenant Kim from the communications station. His young face was pale with fear. "The Shanghai and New Berlin just lost contact too." Sarah nodded but said nothing. She had expected this. The aliens. They called the hegemony had destroyed every human colony in the past 6 months. Mars fell first, its red surface turned to glass by energy beams that bent space itself. The asteroid mining stations lasted only minutes when the alien fleets arrived. The generation ships heading to distant stars never even had time to send distress signals. Now humanity's last military fleet made its final stand near Proxima Centauri. 43 ships against an enemy force that numbered in the thousands. The math was simple and cruel. "How many civilian ships made it to the jump point?" Sarah asked. 17 evacuation vessels, Admiral," Kim replied. "They should reach the Sol system in 2 weeks if they maintain speed." "Good," Sarah watched another human destroyer explode in a ball of fire. "At least someone will warn Earth." The hegemony had sent ambassadors first, as they always did. The message was the same one they had delivered to countless worlds across the galaxy. Humanity was declared a contamination that spread too fast and consumed too much. They had 30 days to surrender their colonies and return to Earth. After that, they would be removed by force. The human governments had laughed at first. Earth's combined fleets numbered in the hundreds. They had nuclear weapons, plasma cannons, and ships that could travel faster than light. How could any alien force threaten them? The laughter stopped when the first hegemony dreadnought appeared over Mars. It was 10 kilometers long and covered in technology that human scientists could not even begin to understand. Within an hour, every defense station around Mars was destroyed. The cities below were turned to ash by weapons that seemed to ignore physical laws. "Admiral," called out Commander Torres from the weapons station, "our missiles aren't even scratching their hulls. The plasma cannons are having no effect either." Sarah had seen the reports from other battles. Human weapons worked on the smaller hegemony ships, but their larger vessels had shields that stopped everything. It was like trying to sink a battleship with arrows. "Keep firing," she ordered. "Every second we hold them here is another second for the evacuation ships to escape." The bridge shook as enemy fire struck the Defiance. Lights flickered and alarms screamed. Sarah gripped her command chair and watched the tactical display. Red dots marked her remaining ships. There were only 12 left now. The hegemony fleet moved with perfect coordination. Their ships were beautiful in a cold way, like deadly works of art. They fired in patterns that seemed almost musical. Each shot was calculated to cause maximum damage with minimum effort. "Engineering reports we've lost main power to Deck 7 through 12, Torres announced. "Hull breach on Deck 4. Emergency teams are responding." Sarah opened a channel to the remaining ships in her fleet. "All vessels, this is Admiral Chun. We knew this was a one-way mission when we started. Our job was to buy time for the evacuation, and we've done that. Earth will know what's coming, that's all we can do." On the main screen, she watched the enemy flagship approach. It was massive, easily 20 kilometers long, covered in weapon ports that glowed with deadly energy. Around it, smaller ships moved like an honor guard. "Admiral," Kim said quietly. "Incoming transmission from the hegemony flagship. Put it through." The screen changed to show an alien face that was almost human but wrong in every detail. Its skin was pale blue, and its eyes were completely black. When it spoke, its voice was like wind through empty caves. "Human military leader," it said. "Your resistance is noted but meaningless. Surrender now and your deaths will be swift. Continue fighting and we will ensure your homeworld suffers greatly." Sarah stood up straighter. Behind her, the bridge crew waited to see what their admiral would say to the aliens who were about to kill them all. "I have a message for you and your entire hegemony," she said clearly. "Humanity rejects your judgment. We reject your authority. And when you reach Earth, you'll find that we don't surrender? Ever. The alien's expression did not change, but Sarah thought she saw surprise in those black eyes. Your species is young and foolish, it replied. You will learn the price of defiance when your world burns. Maybe, Sarah said, but you'll learn something too. You'll learn what happens when you threaten humanity's home. The transmission ended. Around the Defiance, the last human ships continued their hopeless fight. The Australia exploded in a silent flash. The Kenya split in half, its crew venting into space. The little destroyer Hope fired her last missiles before disappearing in enemy fire. Hull breach on the bridge level, Torres reported. We're losing atmosphere fast. Sarah felt the air rushing out around her. Emergency seals activated, but she knew the ship was dying. On her command chair's small screen, she could see the tactical situation. Only 3 human ships remained, including her own. Kim, transmit our final report to Earth. Tell them the hegemony fleet is coming. Tell them we held them as long as we could. She paused, thinking of her homeworld so far away. And tell them that humanity's last fleet died fighting. The young lieutenant's hands moved quickly over his controls. Message transmitted, Admiral? The Defiance shuddered as another energy beam tore through her hull. Fires broke out on multiple decks. The ship's artificial gravity flickered on and off. Sarah looked out at the stars one last time. Somewhere among those points of light was Earth, where her daughter was probably getting ready for school. She hoped the evacuation ships would reach home in time to warn everyone. It's been an honor serving with you all, she said to her bridge crew. The hegemony's final shot turned the Defiance into expanding gas and metal fragments. Admiral Sarah. Chun and her crew joined the billions who had already died defending humanity's colonies. But their sacrifice bought time, and time was what Earth needed most. The alien fleet reorganized itself and began the long journey to Sol System. They expected to find a frightened world ready to surrender. They had no idea what humanity was preparing for them. The evacuation ships arrived at Earth 14 days after Admiral Chun's last message. Captain Rodriguez of the transport vessel New Hope delivered the news to the Emergency Council in Geneva. The room fell silent when he finished speaking. How long until they arrive? Asked Director Walsh, head of Earth's planetary defense. 6 weeks, maybe 7, Rodriguez replied. His uniform was torn and dirty from the desperate flight home. Their ships are faster than ours, but they're taking their time. I think they want us to panic. General Park, commander of Earth's military forces, stood up from the table. How many ships? At least 3,000 that we could count. Maybe more. Rodriguez's voice was hoarse. Sir, our entire colonial fleet couldn't even slow them down. What do we have here that can stop them? The question hung in the air like smoke. Everyone in the room knew the answer. Earth's home defense fleet consisted of 200 ships, most of them patrol vessels designed to stop pirates and smugglers. The orbital defense platforms were impressive-looking but built to fight human enemies, not aliens with technology centuries ahead of their own. We have 6 weeks, Director Walsh said finally. What can we do with 6 weeks? The answer came from an unexpected source, Dr. Elena Vasquez. A small woman with gray hair and tired eyes raised her hand from the back of the room. She worked for the Deep Earth Research Institute, studying the planet's core. We can dig, she said simply. General Park frowned. Dig what? Underground shelters? No, we dig down far enough that their weapons can't reach us. Then we keep fighting. Elena stood up, her scientific mind already working on the problem. They'll bombard the surface, but they can't crack the whole planet. We build our cities underground and make them regret ever coming here. Director Walsh looked interested. How deep are we talking? Miles, tens of miles in some places. We use the old mining equipment, the tunnel borers from the Mars colonies. We dig into mountains, under oceans, anywhere they can't follow. Elena's voice grew stronger as she spoke. We don't have better weapons than them, but we have something they don't expect. What's that? Asked General Park, time and stubbornness. Elena smiled grimly. They think we'll surrender when we see their ships. They don't know humans very well. The hegemony fleet arrived exactly 43 days later. They came out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, their ships arranged in perfect formations that spoke of centuries of military experience. Earth's pathetic defense fleet lasted 14 minutes. Commander Lisa Santos watched from the bridge of the orbital defense station Guardian as the enemy approached. The human ships opened fire at maximum range, their missiles streaking toward the alien fleet like angry sparks. The missiles never reached their targets. Some kind of energy field around the hegemony ships simply made them disappear. The plasma cannon shots from the defense platforms struck the enemy hulls and scattered like water hitting a wall. All stations, this is Guardian Control, Santos transmitted to the remaining platforms. Fall back to defensive positions around Earth. Protect the evacuation of the lunar bases. But there was nowhere to fall back to. The alien ships moved through space like they owned it, their weapons reaching out to touch human vessels from impossible distances. The defense station Courage exploded without warning. The destroyer Manila simply stopped existing, erased by a beam that made the space around it twist and bend. Santos felt her station shake as enemy fire found its mark. Damage report. Direct hit on Reactor 3, her engineering officer replied. We're losing power. Hull breach on levels 7 through 12. Through her viewports, Santos could see the Earth below, blue and beautiful and doomed. Evacuation ships rose from the surface like fleeing insects, carrying civilians to the underground shelters that had been built in just 6 weeks. Guardian Control to all remaining vessels, she transmitted. This is our last message. Earth Control, the fleet is gone. Orbital defenses are destroyed. You're on your own now? The alien flagship, a massive ship that looked like a black crystal, moved into position above Earth. Smaller vessels spread out around the planet, forming a perfect blockade. Then they began to broadcast. Humans of Earth, the transmission began in dozens of languages. You have witnessed the fate of your military forces. Surrender now and your deaths will be merciful. Resist and we will turn your world to ash. The reply came from every radio station, television channel, and communication satellite still working. President Chun, no relation to the Admiral, spoke for all of humanity. We reject your terms. We reject your judgment. We reject your existence as our superiors. The bombardment began 30 minutes later. Energy beams struck the surface from orbit, turning cities into craters and forests into burning wastelands. The aliens focused on military targets first, then government buildings, then anything that looked important, but something strange happened. Instead of surrender, the humans simply disappeared underground. In the deep tunnels beneath the Swiss Alps. Dr. Elena Vasquez watched the surface bombardment on screens fed by hidden cameras. Around her, thousands of workers continued digging, expanding the underground network that now connected every continent. Surface temperature in New York is over 300 degrees, reported her assistant, Dr. Kim. London is completely gone. They hit it with some kind of weapon that turns matter into energy. Elena nodded but didn't look away from her work. What about the factories? Underground facilities are operational. We're still producing food, weapons, and equipment. The aliens can bomb the surface all they want. We're like ants now. We live underground and we keep working. Above them, the bombardment continued for days. The aliens seemed confused by the lack of surrender signals. They had destroyed every major city on Earth, yet the human broadcasts continued. Underground factories produced supplies. Hidden transmitters sent out messages of defiance. Why don't they just land troops? Dr. Kim asked. Because they don't want to conquer us, Elena replied. They want to exterminate us. They think we're a disease that spreads too fast. So they're trying to sterilize the planet from orbit. Is it working? Elena looked at the latest reports. Billions were dead, but billions more lived in the underground cities. Children were being born in the deep tunnels. Schools operated by artificial light. Farms grew food using geothermal energy. No, she said quietly. We're still here. We're still human. And I have an idea that might surprise them. 3 months into the bombardment, Elena presented her plan to the Emergency Council, now meeting in a bunker 5 miles beneath the Rocky Mountains. They want to destroy us from orbit because they think we can't fight back, she explained. But what if we could? Our weapons can't reach their ships, General Park pointed out. Not our weapons, Elena said. Our planet. She activated a holographic display showing Earth's internal structure. The core of our world contains more energy than all the nuclear weapons ever built. If we could harness it, channel it, direct it. You want to turn Earth into a weapon? President Chun asked. I want to turn Earth into the biggest weapon ever created, Elena replied. They came here to destroy our world. Let's show them what happens when our world fights back. Outside the bunker, the alien bombardment continued. But deep underground, humanity was planning something that had never been attempted in the history of the galaxy. They were going to teach the hegemony about the difference between destroying a world and fighting one. 5 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a laboratory that had once been used to study earthquakes, Dr. Elena Vasquez worked on equations that would reshape the laws of physics. Around her, the world's greatest scientists huddled around computer screens, their faces lit by the glow of calculations that seemed impossible. The numbers don't lie, said Dr. James Wright, a physicist who had escaped from the ruins of Cambridge University. We can destabilize the magnetic field, but the chain reaction will destroy everything on the surface. Everyone still alive up there will die. Elena didn't look up from her work. Everyone up there is already dead or hiding underground like us. The aliens have been bombing for 4 months now. The surface temperature averages 200 degrees. There's no atmosphere left in most places. That's not what I mean, Wright continued. This plan will kill everyone, including us. The laboratory fell silent except for the hum of computers. The other scientists, men and women who had spent their lives unlocking the secrets of the universe, stared at Elena as she finally turned around. Yes, she said simply. It will kill us all, but it will also kill them. Dr. Sarah Kim, who had been Elena's assistant since the beginning, spoke up. Elena, there has to be another way. Some kind of escape plan or... There is no other way, Elena interrupted. Look at the tactical reports. Their fleet is positioned perfectly around our planet. They're not going anywhere. They plan to keep bombing until every living thing on Earth is dead. This is our only chance to take them with us. President Chun's voice came through the communication system from his bunker in Colorado. Dr. Vasquez, I need to understand exactly what you're proposing. Elena activated the holographic display that showed Earth's internal structure. We use our nuclear waste, all of it, to create controlled fusion reactions in the planet's core. This will destabilize our magnetic field and change our orbital trajectory. Earth becomes a projectile weapon aimed at their command ships. How big of a projectile? Asked General Park. The entire planet, General. All 6 billion trillion tons of it, accelerated to 17% of the speed of light. The silence stretched for a full minute. What happens to us? President Chun asked quietly. We die, Elena said. The surface will become uninhabitable within hours of starting the process. The underground cities might last a few days longer, but the gravitational changes will collapse most tunnels. We'll have maybe a week to make sure the planet hits its target. And if we miss? Then we die for nothing, and the hegemony moves on to destroy the next species that annoys them. Elena's voice was steady. But if we hit them, we send a message to every other civilization in the galaxy. We show them that some fights are worth fighting, even when the only victory is choosing how you die. Over the next few weeks, the plan spread through the underground cities. In tunnels beneath the Sahara Desert, engineers began building massive electromagnetic launchers. In the depths of Siberian mines, workers installed fusion reactors that would destabilize the planet's core. Under the ruins of Tokyo, children helped their parents calculate orbital mechanics. The most surprising thing was that nobody panicked. Nobody tried to run. When the vote was taken across all remaining human settlements, the result was unanimous. Maria Santos worked in the tunnel complex beneath what used to be Mexico City. She was 8 years old and spent her days helping the adults with simple math problems. Her job was to add up long columns of numbers that the engineers needed for their calculations. "Maria," her teacher Ms. Rodriguez said one day, "do you understand what the grown-ups are building?" "Yes," Maria replied, continuing to work on her numbers. "We're turning our planet into a spaceship so we can ram it into the bad aliens. And do you understand what that means for us?" "We'll die," Maria said without stopping her work. "But the aliens will die too, and other people in the galaxy will know that humans don't give up." Ms. Rodriguez stared at the child. "Aren't you scared?" Maria looked up with serious eyes that had seen too much for someone her age. "I'm more scared of the aliens winning." Similar conversations happened in every tunnel, every underground city, every hidden shelter where humans still lived. The old argued with the young, parents worried about their children, and philosophers debated the morality of planetary suicide. But in the end, they all kept working. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the central control room, 6 miles beneath the Mariana Trench. Around her, screens showed the progress of Project Icarus, humanity's final gift to the universe. The electromagnetic launchers were 90% complete. The core destabilization reactors were being installed on schedule. The targeting computers were calculating the exact trajectory needed to hit the hegemony command fleet. "Elena," Dr. Wright said, approaching with a tablet full of new calculations, "I've been thinking about the timing. We need to fire the launchers in a very specific sequence to change Earth's rotation without tearing the planet apart too early." "Show me." Wright activated a simulation that showed Earth spinning through space. "If we fire the launchers around the equator first, we can speed up rotation. Then we fire the ones at the poles to change our axis. Finally, we fire everything at once to break orbit and head toward the enemy fleet." Elena studied the numbers. "How long from start to impact?" 47 hours and 33 minutes. "The planet will hold together that long, but not much longer." 47 hours to cross the solar system," Elena murmured. "They'll see us coming." "Oh, yes. They'll have plenty of time to try to stop us." "But Elena," Wright smiled grimly, "how do you stop a planet?" Above them, the hegemony fleet maintained its patient bombardment. The aliens had settled into orbit around Earth, confident that they were slowly burning away all life on the surface. Their energy weapons continued to strike the dead cities, turning sand to glass and rock to vapor. The alien commander studied reports from his science teams. According to their sensors, all large population centers were destroyed. No human technology was functioning on the surface. The resistance was broken. "How much longer until complete sterilization?" he asked his subordinate. "Another few months, Commander. There are still some energy signatures from underground installations, but those will be dealt with soon." "Good. This species showed more resistance than expected. We should ensure no traces remain." The alien had no way of knowing that 6 miles below his ship, a small human woman was making final adjustments to a plan that would kill them both. The hegemony had fought thousands of wars against hundreds of species. They had seen desperate last stands, suicidal attacks, and hopeless defiance, but they had never seen anything like what humanity was preparing. Elena Vasquez looked around the control room at the scientists, engineers, and volunteers who had made Project Icarus possible. These people had given up their lives to build something that had never existed before, a planet-sized weapon aimed at the heart of their enemy. "Are we ready?" she asked. Dr. Wright nodded. "All systems are online. The launchers are charged and targeted. The core reactors are standing by." Elena took a deep breath and opened a communication channel to every remaining human settlement on Earth. Her voice carried to underground cities on every continent, to hidden bunkers and secret facilities where the last members of her species waited. "This is Dr. Elena Vasquez speaking to all human settlements. In 1 hour, we begin the final phase of Project Icarus. We are about to turn our world into a weapon and aim it at the alien fleet. This will kill us all, but it will also show the galaxy who we are." She paused, thinking of all the children working in the tunnels, all the families huddled together in the darkness, All the brave people who had chosen death over surrender. We go to our end with pride. We go knowing that the hegemony will remember humanity forever. And we go knowing that somewhere in the galaxy, other species will hear our story and find the courage to fight their own battles. Elena looked at the countdown timer. 59 minutes and 30 seconds until humanity's final hour began, outside the underground cities. Earth waited in the darkness of space, ready to become something it had never been before, a weapon forged from an entire world's determination to die fighting rather than live kneeling. The countdown reached zero at exactly 3:47 GMT, on a Tuesday morning that would be remembered across the galaxy for millennia, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the activation scanner. Around the world, similar scanners required the touch of senior scientists, military officers, and government leaders. Humanity had designed the system so that no single person could destroy the world. It required the agreement of everyone. "Electromagnetic launchers activating in sequence," announced Dr. Wright from his station, starting with Equatorial Array 1. On the surface, in the ruins of what had once been Singapore, massive machines that looked like metal mountains began to move. The electromagnetic launchers were disguised as evacuation centers, built in the frantic weeks before the siege began. Now they revealed their true purpose. The first launcher fired with a sound like thunder splitting the world. A pulse of electromagnetic energy struck the planet's crust, pushing against Earth's rotation. The effect was invisible but enormous, like a giant hand giving the world a shove. "Rotation speed increasing by 0.001%, reported Dr. Kim from the monitoring station. "Firing Equatorial Array 2, around the world, more launchers activated. In the Amazon basin, under the ice of Antarctica, in the depths of the Sahara Desert, dozens of hidden weapons pushed against the planet itself. Each pulse was carefully timed and precisely aimed. Commander Yuki Tanaka stood on the peak of Mount Fuji, the only human left on the surface. His radiation suit was the most advanced Earth had ever built, but even it couldn't protect him for long in the hellish environment the aliens had created. His job was to coordinate the surface equipment and make final adjustments to the launcher arrays. Through his helmet's display, he could see the alien ships hanging in the sky like black stars. They had noticed something was happening. Their bombardment patterns were changing, focusing on areas where the electromagnetic pulses originated. But they were too late. The launchers had done their job. "Control, this is Surface Command," Tanaka transmitted to the underground cities. "All surface arrays have fired successfully. The planet's rotation has increased by the required amount." "Confirmed, Surface Command," Elena's voice replied. "Beginning Phase 2, take cover." Tanaka looked around at the twisted landscape of what had once been Japan. The alien bombardment had turned forests to ash and cities to glass, but somehow Mount Fuji still stood. It seemed fitting that humanity's final battle would end where the sun had always risen. "Beginning polar array activation," Dr. Wright announced in the control room. The launchers at Earth's north and south poles were different from the equatorial ones. Instead of changing rotation, they would alter the planet's axis of spin. The effect was immediate and terrifying. From space, Earth appeared to wobble like a spinning top that was losing balance. The planet's magnetic field fluctuated wildly, creating aurora displays that painted the dead atmosphere in brilliant colors. "Gravitational stress is within acceptable parameters," Dr. Kim reported, though her voice was tense. "The planet is holding together, but we're seeing massive tectonic activity." In the underground cities, people felt the world shaking around them. Tunnels that had been carved from solid rock groaned and creaked. Emergency lights flickered as power systems struggled to compensate for the changing gravitational forces, but nobody panicked. Children continued helping with calculations. Engineers kept monitoring their equipment. Families held each other close and sang quiet songs while their world prepared to die. "Phase 2 complete," Elena announced. "All units, prepare for Phase 3. This is the big one." The hegemony fleet had finally realized something was wrong. Their scanners detected the massive electromagnetic pulses, the changes in Earth's rotation, the unstable magnetic field. Emergency signals flashed between their ships as alien commanders tried to understand what the humans were doing. The planet's orbital trajectory is changing, reported the science officer on the Hegemony flagship. These readings are impossible. How can they move an entire world? The alien commander stared at the tactical display. Earth was slowly drifting away from its normal orbit, wobbling like a broken gyroscope. Are they trying to escape? Flee to another star system? No, sir. According to these calculations, they're heading directly toward us. The commander's expression changed from confusion to something approaching fear. In all their centuries of conquest, the Hegemony had never encountered a species that would weaponize their own planet. All ships prepare for evasive maneuvers, he ordered, and destroy those electromagnetic installations immediately. Energy beams lashed down at the hidden launchers, but most were already buried under tons of rock and metal. The aliens managed to destroy a few, but it was too late. Phase 3 was beginning. All launchers fire together, Elena commanded. Every electromagnetic weapon left on Earth activated simultaneously. The combined pulse was so powerful it created visible distortions in space-time around the planet. Earth's orbit broke like a chain snapping under too much pressure. The effect on the surface was catastrophic. Continents cracked along fault lines. Oceans boiled away into space. The atmosphere began bleeding off in long, beautiful streamers that caught the light of the distant sun. Commander Tanaka felt the mountain shake beneath his feet as reality itself seemed to bend around him. Through his helmet sensors, he could see the curvature of space changing, warping under forces that no human had ever witnessed before. Elena, he transmitted, I can see the alien fleet from here. They're trying to move away from our trajectory, but we're accelerating faster than they expected. How much faster? Elena asked. We'll reach them in 46 hours instead of 47. They won't have time to escape the gravity well. In the deep control room, Elena smiled grimly. Good, Dr. Wright. Begin core destabilization sequence. The final phase of Project Icarus began deep in Earth's molten center. Nuclear reactors that had been lowered into the planet's core on cables began their work. They didn't explode. Instead, they created controlled fusion reactions that fed on the iron and nickel in the planetary core. The effect built slowly, then accelerated beyond all expectations. Earth's magnetic field collapsed entirely, then regenerated. In a new configuration that pushed against the solar wind like a sail. The planet's core became a fusion reactor the size of a moon, burning nuclear fuel and generating thrust. Velocity increasing beyond projected parameters, Dr. Kim announced, excitement creeping into her voice. We're accelerating faster than the calculations predicted. The core is burning hotter than we thought, Elena realized. The planet has more nuclear fuel than we estimated. We're going to hit them even harder than planned. Around the world, the underground cities began to collapse as gravitational forces tore them apart. But the humans inside didn't despair. They had always known this moment would come. Instead, they sent their final messages to the galaxy. Children drew pictures of Earth ramming into alien ships. Engineers transmitted technical specifications for planetary weapons. Philosophers composed essays about the right to choose how you die. Families recorded videos for civilizations they would never meet. This is humanity's last transmission, President Chun broadcast from his collapsing bunker. We go to our deaths. Gladly knowing that we chose our fate instead of accepting yours. Remember us and remember that no species has to kneel to you. On the surface, Commander Tanaka watched the alien fleet grow larger in the sky as Earth plunged toward them. The enemy ships were firing everything they had at the approaching planet, but their weapons barely scratched the surface. How do you stop 6 billion trillion tons of matter moving at 17% of light speed? Elena, he transmitted one final time, the planet is becoming unstable. I don't think I'll make it to the end. None of us will, she replied. But we'll make it far enough. Thank you, Yuki. Thank you for a standing watch while we loaded the gun. Mount Fuji cracked in half as gravitational forces tore Japan apart, but Tanaka kept transmitting until the end. His last message was simple: target acquired. Impact in 36 hours. Earth is armed and heading your way. In the deepest bunker, Elena looked around at her team one last time. The walls were cracking, and she could feel the artificial gravity fluctuating as the planet's structure failed. But they had done it. Earth was no longer a world. It was a weapon flying through space toward the heart of the hegemony fleet. "How long until our systems fail?" she asked Dr. Wright. "Maybe 6 hours. The underground cities are collapsing faster than predicted." Elena nodded and opened one final communication to every human settlement still functioning. "This is our last broadcast. Earth is on target and accelerating beyond design parameters. We will impact the enemy fleet in 35 hours and 17 minutes. The planet will hold together that long." She paused, looking at the faces of the scientists and engineers who had made the impossible possible. "We have given the galaxy a gift," she continued. "We have shown them that some things are worth dying for. And we have proven that humans don't surrender, not ever." Outside the dying bunker, Earth plunged through the darkness of space, trailing fire and radiation like a comet forged from pure determination. Behind it, the ruins of human civilization burned away into cosmic dust. Ahead lay the hegemony fleet. Trapped in their perfect formation, Earth died 6 hours before impact. The last underground city collapsed. When the planet's crust finally gave way to the enormous forces tearing it apart, Dr. Elena Vasquez felt the bunker walls crumble around her as gravity fluctuated wildly. In her final moments, she managed to activate one last transmission beacon before the control room was crushed into scrap metal. "This is Dr. Elena Vasquez of the Human Deep Earth Research Institute," she broadcast into the void. "Our planet has become a guided missile. Impact in 5 hours and 54 minutes. We die proud. Remember us." The signal joined thousands of others radiating from the dying world. Teachers had recorded lessons about human history. Children had sung lullabies their mothers taught them. Engineers had transmitted detailed plans for planetary weapons. Artists had painted final masterpieces. In blood on tunnel walls, all of it poured into space as Earth's last gift to the universe, the complete record of a species that chose extinction over surrender. The hegemony fleet tried everything. Their most powerful weapons fired continuously at the approaching planet, carving canyons across its surface and boiling away its oceans. They attempted to change course, but Earth's gravity well had already captured most of their ships. They sent boarding parties to try to land on the planet and stop the fusion reactions in its core. But the surface temperature was over 1,000 degrees and rising. The alien commander stood on his bridge, watching death approach. His species had conquered the galaxy by being patient, methodical, and overwhelming. They had never faced an enemy willing to destroy their own world just to take a few enemy ships with them. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we have 17 minutes until impact. Our engines cannot break free of the planet's gravitational field. How many ships will we lose?" "All of them, sir. The planet will strike our command group directly, and the debris field will destroy everything within 1,000,000 kilometers." The commander stared at the tactical display. 3,000 ships, the largest fleet the hegemony had ever assembled, about to be destroyed by a single planet traveling at 17% of light speed. "Send a transmission to Hegemony Command," he ordered. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them that the humans turned their world into a weapon rather than accept our judgment." "Sir?" "What should we tell them about future encounters with similar species?" The commander was quiet for a long moment. In all his centuries of military service, he had never felt what humans called fear. But watching an entire planet plunge toward his fleet with the fury of a dying species, he finally understood why the galaxy should be afraid of creatures that preferred death to defeat. "Tell them to be careful," he said finally. "Tell them that some species would rather burn the galaxy down than kneel before us." Earth struck the Hegemony command ship at 1834 GMT on a day that would be remembered forever. The collision released energy equivalent to 1 billion nuclear weapons. The alien flagship simply ceased to exist, vaporized instantly by the impact of 6 billion trillion tons traveling at 51,000 kilometers per second. The shockwaves spread outward like the breath of an angry god. Alien vessels that had ruled space for centuries were swept aside like toys in a hurricane. Some were pulled into Earth's fragmenting mass and crushed. Others were hurled away at velocities that tore them apart. The lucky few on the edges of the formation were merely vaporized by radiation, but the explosion was more than destruction. It was communication. The energy released by Earth's death carried information encoded in quantum fluctuations that spread across space-time at the speed of light. Humanity's final transmission was written in the language of physics itself, embedded in the very structure of the blast wave. Every civilization within 1,000 light-years received the signal. Species that had never heard of humans suddenly knew their story. The quantum transmission carried everything: Earth's history, human art and music, scientific discoveries, and most importantly, the complete technical specifications for turning a planet into a weapon on the world of Kepler 442b. The Vrex people had been facing their own ultimatum from the hegemony. They were a peaceful species that preferred negotiation to warfare, and they had been preparing to surrender when the transmission reached them. The Vrex leader, a being called Harmonious Thought in Starlight, studied the human records with growing amazement. They sacrificed their entire world rather than submit. "Yes, leader," replied her military advisor. "The quantum data is complete." They included detailed plans for planetary defense using their technique. "But, leader, implementing this plan would require destroying our own world." Harmonious Thought in Starlight was quiet for a long time. Her species had never faced such a choice. But as she read the human testimonials, children singing songs while their world died, scientists calculating trajectories with their last breaths, families choosing death over slavery, she felt something new burning in her chest. "Send a message to the hegemony fleet approaching our system," she commanded. "What should the message say, leader?" "Tell them that the Vrex people have learned about a species called humanity. Tell them we reject their ultimatum. And tell them—" She paused, thinking of the brave aliens who had turned their world into a weapon. "Tell them that we would rather die like humans than live like slaves." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on hundreds of worlds. The Keth Confederacy, facing hegemony invasion, began building their own planetary launchers. The Spiral Arm Alliance declared war on the alien empire for the first time in their history. Even species that had never shown aggression before started studying Earth's final weapon. But the most significant change happened in hegemony space itself, 3 months after Earth's destruction. The alien empire faced something they had never encountered in their 1,000-year history: rebellion. Species they had conquered centuries ago rose up with new knowledge and new courage. They built weapons based on human designs. They fought with human determination. And when they died like humans, proudly, defiantly, taking their enemies with them. The Hegemony Council convened for the first time in 50 years. Their ancient leaders struggling to understand how one primitive species had changed the entire galaxy. "The rebellion is spreading faster than we can contain it," reported the military commander. 17 sectors have declared independence. 3 of our core worlds have been destroyed by planetary weapons based on human designs. How is this possible?" demanded the eldest council member. "The humans are extinct. Their world is debris floating in space." "Their world is gone," the military commander agreed. "But their ideas survive?" "Every species in the galaxy knows their story now. They know that the hegemony can be fought. They know that some victories are worth dying for." The cultural analysis specialist, an ancient being who had studied conquered species for centuries, spoke up. "I have reviewed the human transmissions extensively. This species was unique. They possessed what they called defiance, a refusal to submit even when submission meant survival. Surely other species have shown defiance. Not like this. Other species fight until defeat becomes inevitable, then surrender to preserve their lives. Humans fought until defeat became inevitable, then chose death over surrender. They turned defeat itself into a weapon. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The hegemony had built their empire on the assumption that all intelligent life valued survival above freedom. But humanity had proven that assumption wrong, and their example was spreading like a virus across the galaxy. "What do you recommend?" asked the eldest council member, the cultural analysis specialist, considered carefully. "We must change our approach. The old methods worked when we were the only ones willing to die for our beliefs. But now every species we encounter might be willing to turn their world into a weapon. We can no longer guarantee quick victories or acceptable losses. Are you suggesting we negotiate?" "I am suggesting we consider the possibility that the galaxy has changed. The age of easy conquest may be over." Far from the hegemony council chambers in a star system on the galactic rim, a new species was taking its first steps into space. The Tertians had just developed faster-than-light travel when they detected the quantum transmission from Earth's destruction. Young Tertian scientists studied the human records with wonder and horror. Here was a species that had chosen to die fighting rather than live in chains. Their sacrifice had inspired a galactic revolution that was still spreading across the stars-in Tertian classrooms. Children learned about Admiral Sarah Chun's last stand and Dr. Elena Vasquez's impossible plan. They studied human poetry written in the final hours before Earth's death. They memorized the words of Commander Tanaka's last transmission. "Earth is armed and heading your way." Will we ever be that brave? A young Tertian student asked her teacher. The teacher looked out through the classroom window at the stars where humanity's fire had burned so briefly and so brightly. "I hope we never have to find out," she replied. "But if we do, we know what's possible. We know that some fights are worth fighting, even when the only victory is choosing how you die." The human species was extinct. Earth was a cloud of radioactive debris drifting through space. But their defiance had become eternal in code.